Thank you, Presiding Officer, and let me begin by thanking my friend and comrade Katie Clark for taking up the challenge of reforming our freedom of information laws to be fit for the 21st century. The Freedom of Information Scotland Act 2002 was significant in that it gave everyone the right to obtain information held by public authorities. Yet, as Katie has rightly highlighted, this law has not kept pace with the level of outsourcing to private companies of our public services. In effect, our right to know has been stripped back. Take buses, for example. In Edinburgh, the buses are owned and operated by Lothian Buses. Publicly owned, Lothian is the UK's largest municipal bus company, and as such, it is rightly subject to freedom of information requests. Yet elsewhere, First Bus, owned by First Group plc, is not subject to freedom of information laws despite receiving huge sums of public money. So if you live out with the capital, you have no right to know about your local bus service. This Parliament has a duty to change that. And it's not just bus companies who've been allowed to avoid public scrutiny. In energy, we've seen the vast majority of money from the Scottish Government's Just Transition Fund siphoned off to the private sector. Over 40% of this fund has gone to organisations linked to billionaire oil tycoon Sir Ian Wood, all while energy workers lose their jobs and are forced to pay out of pocket to retrain. Without this vital freedom of information legislation, the public will have no right to ask questions about how this money is being spent. How can the Scottish Government justify this? What are they hiding? Who are they protecting? And isn't it time Scotland had a government that will work in the interest of the people rather than those of big business, billionaires and barons? Presiding Officer, the COVID pandemic exposed the hard reality of how few government decisions across the world truly serve the people they are supposed to represent. A harrowing example, which brought this point home to many, was the care home scandal. And I would like to highlight the tireless work of former MSP Neil Findlay, both inside and outside this chamber, on this issue. Because as members will remember, many people across the country spent their final days alone in care homes as part of a botched plan to free up hospital beds. Due to this outsourcing, families of the bereaved cannot make a freedom of information request regarding where their loved ones spent their final days. Yet if they had remained in hospital, they could have made a freedom of information request. This is another example of where the current FOI law is simply not strong enough. For victims, for workers, for the travelling public and many more, we need FOI reform. We need Katie Clark's Members' Bill. I'll conclude, Presiding Officer, with this point. Clearly, the Scottish Government recognise this need as they are now running consultations on extending FOI to care homes. So if they agree current FOI law is inadequate, and if they recognise the injustice being faced by the public seeking crucial information, why on earth wouldn't they support this timely bill today? I commend this bill to Parliament and I thank Katie Clark for bringing it forward.